So yeah, we had that Sunday night, and like so normally. Oh, did you lose your egg? Here, let's get it out. So normally she will go to sleep. We'll put her to bed sometime between 6 and 7.
Mhm.
But Easter Sunday, she got a nap on the ride back to our house from her parents, but she didn't go down for bed until like 8:30.
Sure.
So she was a little bit of a bear on Monday because her schedule got thrown off a little bit, but she was good.
That always happens when you're around family, though. You get to be around family for a couple hours, the nap gets missed, and next thing you know, a week later, she's finally back on track.
Right, and you know she really hasn't been bad. It was just Monday she was kind of a bear getting up, but beyond that, she's been all right.
Good. Did you guys do the whole Easter hunt thing with her?
Sort of. So my family's really small, so it was just us and mom and dad.
Right.
So we didn't do that this year, but on her side with the older cousins, they're like kind of right at the end of that whole thing. So they had their eggs that they were looking for, and then they hid a few eggs for us to find for Allison.
Okay. How old do kids actually like maintain belief in stuff out in the Midwest?
I really don't.
I'm just diving into this shit now. Like, let's just get this. No. I'm just gonna this is an anthropology study for me, you know. So okay. So in the Midwest, in this great land of the Midwest.
Who are you, Jane Goodall?
Yes, exactly.
So I really don't have a huge grasp on, to tell you like it's 11, it's 12, whatever. But I know that our niece and our nephew are like starting to figure it out. But they're not being assholes about it, though. It's kind of like, yeah, okay, I don't really believe, but the whole stocking on Christmas morning is fun. The hunting for Easter eggs and getting the candy is fun. So I'll play along.
Okay, good. And how old are they approximately?
So our niece will be 11 this summer, and our nephew just turned 11 at Thanksgiving.
Okay, so then that's about 5th, 6th grade.
Fifth. They're both in the same class. They're in 5th grade. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's about what it is out here too. I think Aaron told me that like grade school, junior high, kids still believe out here.
Mm-hmm.
And all I could think was like, that's old. Like I feel like I knew by the end of elementary school. Like I remember my dad told me when I was in like 5th or 6th grade, because we just always went Christmas shopping for my mother, and one day he just went like. So like just so you know, like some of the things are going to show up in your mother's stocking, and so I just want to make sure, like, yeah, no, Dad, I've known for years. And so the idea of like kids being like getting ready to go off to junior high or high school or whatever those ages are, and still like believing in something is just like mind blowing to me.
And especially with social media and everything, what it is like there are so many more ways you can find out now versus when we were kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right? Like, I don't even remember. Like, everybody I talk to has this big moment of like, oh, I learned about the Santa, the Easter, the whatever. I'm like, I just knew. Like, I just always knew. I don't know if it was TV. I don't know if there was like a silent, like they said something on TV. I was like, oh, was I supposed to know this? Oh, I don't want to seem dumb. Like, yeah, no, I knew. But yeah, no, that's the thing. That's weird.
And for me, I remember I don't know, I was third, probably 4th grade or so. I remember asking asking my parents for handwriting samples because I was starting to like, okay, this doesn't make sense. It's got to be mom and dad, but I wasn't like completely convinced, so I asked for handwriting samples to prepare. And of course, they were smart enough to not write in the same handwriting, so it didn't match up. So it tided me over for a little bit, but
Detective Tommy here, is pulling out his little spectrograph. Is like, all right, let's scan this for DNA evidence. I'm positive Santa Claus is actually Daddy in a white beard. He just painted that thing white for an afternoon. That's all that happened.
Yeah, and then like our family gatherings with Dad's side of the family. So it was. I've got a cousin that's 3 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 4 older cousins, the youngest of which is like 7 or 8 years older than me.
Sure.
So you know, by the time my younger cousin and I were getting to that age, of course they were, you know, high school or starting college, so they were well past that threshold. And I remember one year, like I said something, I don't remember what it was, and one of my older cousins kind of gave me the side eye and you know, said to keep quiet around the younger cousin. I'm like, yeah,
okay, I get it, fine. Yeah, it's like all right, well, you want to get started?
Sure.
All right, cool, let's do this. Hi everybody, welcome to Two Dumb Dads. I'm Chris, and with me today, we have a special guest. Nick is out doing some top secret stuff. He has things going on in his life that we're not allowed to talk about because he's really important and he's a big deal, but I will say that we are the reason it's happening. So, be proud of yourselves. I'm proud of myself, because personally I take credit for everything. But because of that, we have a special guest, and that is our number one listener, Tom from Illinois. Hey, Tom.
Hey, how's it going?
It's great. Yeah, thanks for coming on for us.
No problem. Hey, I gotta say, I'm glad that I'm still the number one listener. I thought I'd been surpassed again by Grandma Jenny, but I guess not.
Well, Grandma Jenny hasn't written us for a while, so she's still by far the most loved listener. But I mean, you've been on the show now. And we haven't heard from Grandma Jenny for weeks. So I guess that means you have to take over the number one spot again.
All right. I guess that's a torch I can keep carrying.
I don't know, Tom. Like, I guess we should probably start off by talking a little bit about who you are. So I guess I'll start off by saying this. Like, Tom, we've known each other since college, right? Like, we met freshman, sophomore year. Yeah, that's a long time now. God.
It's been a long freaking time.
15?
What, 15 years now?
It seems like, has it been, oh God, I feel so old.
I know. How did we get old?
I'm 33-ish, 33-ish, and so I guess 18 minus, yeah, that's 15 years. Jeez. Yeah.
Been that long.
And I guess this is a good time to mention your parenting cred. So, tell us about who this musical creature is here.
So if you're probably hearing her in the microphone, I've got my 9-month-old daughter Allison sitting here with me.
Hey, Allison.
She's got a bunch of.
You know your name, Allison. Hi.
Yeah, she definitely knows her name.
So how long have obviously you've been 9 months. You've been a parent.
Yep.
But so tell me a little bit about what stage she's in.
So right now she's like right on the verge of crawling.
Okay.
She's like, so I've got my iPad probably about 1.5 feet in front of her, and she's very flexible. Like she'll from her sitting position, she'll reach in front of her and like get the keyboard and try and pull it toward her or hit the buttons or whatever. So she's not actually crawling yet, but she's pretty much doing everything but at this point.
I mean, personally, I think you waited a little long to get her to typing lessons. She should really have been starting these things at about 6 months, is what the doctors say now. It's just this digital age that we live in. If they're not fluently typing on a QWERTY keyboard by 6 months, I'm sorry. I just want to let you know that.
Well, I haven't really looked hard, but I haven't been able to find any Mavis Beacon typing programs for toddlers and infants. So,
I've actually found a couple things now. I'm not going to advertise them on the show right now because they're not giving us any money. You want an advertisement? You give us a little bit of money to run this thing. But I can tell you offline about a couple programs that are online that are kind of fun. But yeah, that being said, cool. Like I don't know. Like let's just dive into it, right? Like let's just chat.
Okay.
So we usually start off the show with our usual adventures in dadding, and with the new format where we kind of have these things. Oh, hey, sweetie, it's okay. Don't worry, you won't have to hear my story. We're going to talk about you today, okay? This is all about you.
Okay.
So you heard all about me being an awful bigoted person last week on the podcast. And so I'm curious, can you make me feel better, or are you going to make me feel worse, telling me that I did something right or wrong?
with the Facebook group and the meeting up at the park. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and like the telling the lady with the autistic child, like, go screw.
I'll tell you, listening to that, I'm like, that's probably exactly how I would have handled it. But at the same time, I completely get the awkwardness of not changing the plan to get everybody started off on the same base.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically with this child with special needs, I completely get that awkwardness and why that parent wanted to get in on the ground floor. But that's probably exactly how I would have handled it.
That's comforting.
So I guess we're both assholes.
Hey, I'll take that. As long as I'm not the only asshole in the room. I mean, I guess I'm very literally the only person in the room right now. You're like half a country away, but still, I'm going to take solace that I'm not the only one on this phone call. So anyway, that's kind of like that's my awfulness for this week. I've had so much more awfulness. I don't need to talk about it at the moment. How's your parenting been, though? Anything you want to talk about? Any stories you want to tell?
Parenting for me has been really fun. Like I remember when my wife first told me that she was pregnant, just all those, hypotheticals that run through your head of like, oh crap, how am I going to handle this? Or what if this pops up? What am I going to do? But knock on wood, so far through 9 months, she's been really, really easy. We haven't had any, huge medical issues or, anything that's really thrown us for a complete loop. So knock on wood, so far it's been pretty easy. I know that
that's good.
The pendulum's going to swing the other way at some point, but so far she's been really easy. We were lucky enough to so my wife and I are both teachers, and we were lucky that she was born in the middle of July, so we both still had a month of summer left after she was born to kind of get settled in. And my wife, she took her leave for the first quarter, and then I took mine after she went back. So we pretty much went the first 5 months of her life with one or the other of us.
Oh, that is so not fair. I'm teaching in like the most liberal state next to California, and I'm a college professor, and I don't get that crap.
Well, the way my superintendent basically said, you've got 30 days that you can use for this. Use them how you will, and because I know some places are like the time starts from the second they're born. So that if either of our superintendents had been like that, it would have sucked for us because that said that first month was still summer.
Sure.
But yeah, I opted to use mine from October into December.
Okay. Hey, that's great. That's really nice. I can only imagine having been able to stay home with Thea during those first couple months. I remember, my wife was exhausted. I was exhausted.
Right.
And they really got to bond during that time, and here we are, 2.5, 3 years later, and it's still that way. She wakes up in the middle of the night and she wants mommy. She gets sad and she wants mommy, and I really wish I could have gotten a little bit more of that. So that's great.
I wonder how much of that is that your wife was there, and how much of it is just kind of like a nature versus nurture type thing. How much of it is just you go to mom anyway, or how much of it was because of that.
Yeah, I'm also curious about that. We'll have to use your child as a case study. Let's just leave her on the street for a couple days and see which one she goes to when you guys come back. That actually, in some weird ways, kind of leads me into what I wanted to talk to you about today. So without Nick here, this is a great opportunity for me to talk to somebody who's not from the East Coast. We've been living here, Nick and I have been living out here in New York, New Jersey area for over 10 years now. Jeez, I can't believe we've been here over 10 years. Well over 10 years actually. Buildings have gone up and come back down since we've been living here. And so it's nice to check in with people back home in the Midwest who are living in smaller areas, who are maybe less populated and less rigid, perhaps. And so I was hoping I could talk to you a little bit about how it's different parenting in the nice, good old, calm, relaxing, slow-moving Midwest instead of the 2-hour train rides each way, New York. So here, let's just start off kind of simple. Like, what kind of experience is it? So, do you want to mention
Let's
where
go with
you
rural
live, or do you
area.
just want to say like
I think,
rural
and
area?
this will kind of tie in with, I saw a little bit of you and Nick having a back and forth a couple weeks ago over whether the Quad Cities is a small town.
Mm-hmm.
So the town I'm in is roughly 20,000, so about the tenth of the size of the Quad Cities.
Is it really that big?
Yeah, Quad Cities is like 200,000, quarter million, somewhere in there.
Okay, sure.
So and the town that I grew up in actually is even smaller than the town I'm in now.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, this town of 20,000 is a big city.
It's a very hopping life for you now. You have stores, you have shops, you have a bar, maybe even two.
The county we're in, we've got a lot of bars.
I forgot. That's right. It's the Midwest. There's a lot of
There's
bars
bars
everywhere. You can go to the middle of nowhere and find a street corner with 4 bars. Yeah.
Exactly. But above all, we've got an interstate here.
Ooh.
So we can actually go places.
And see, now that's decadent. The place I'm in is like surrounded by interstates.
Right.
Where, like, I go a mile in any way, and I'm like, okay, I have to wait 30 minutes to cross this interstate. I can't ride my bicycle anymore because I'd have to cross 2 interstates to get the nearest bike path.
And I had a good chuckle a few weeks ago. You made the comment about WrestleMania being really loud, and that blew my mind that one, you're that close, and two, you could hear it from your house.
Yeah, I officially hate wrestling. Like, I didn't watch wrestling. Like, I haven't watched wrestling since I was in high school. But oh my god, after that, I was just I officially hate these people. Like, let's ignore all the politics of how terrible they are to the people who work for them. Let's just stick to they woke up me, who was like not my daughter even. Like, they didn't even wake up my kid. They just woke me up every 20 minutes who has a kid, and I'm like, no, I hate you now. You were the worst people in the world.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I was watching that event from home, and they did have a lot of pyro, a lot more than they do a lot of times.
Well, I'm sure their logic was like, oh, we can be outside here. Screw it. There's no roof we can blow up. Let's do it.
Right.
No, I legitimately woke up several times that night thinking there were gunshots. Which?
Yeah, it went till like 11 o'clock my time. I'm in the central zone, so that was, encroaching on midnight your time. So, yeah, I imagine you were trying to get a wink of sleep.
Oh, yeah. And that actually, I think, is a good launching off point for this conversation. So, obviously, your daughter's 9 months old, and so I'm looking at her right now. She's she's a little bit more worried about the boogers than the buttons on the keyboard. Than she probably is like anything that's going on at the park. But when you do go to the park, and I assume you guys go to the park? Is there a park?
There's some parks around. We actually haven't done a park yet, just because. So she was born in July and just little and frail for what was remaining of summer. Mm-hmm. So no, we haven't really done a park yet. But that is definitely on the docket. That once it consistently gets up into the 70s and not raining.
Okay. So how busy are your parks? I know you haven't been to one as a parent for yet, but in general, how busy are they?
So there's one that we go by not every day, but multiple times a week. That sometimes there's nobody there, and sometimes there's probably like 10, 15, maybe upwards of 20 kids running around there. So that park definitely I know gets some traffic. Okay. And there's a couple other parks that I've been by a few times and usually see kids playing there. So probably not packed, but they get some traffic.
Can you describe your parks for me? Like out here, our parks are like they are coated in like plastic. Like they're probably metal coated in plastic, coated in like aluminum with plastic coating, and then they're all rounded. There's no pointed edges anywhere. We have that like recycled tire, bouncy like padding on the ground. Yeah. Like the most dangerous thing we have is like patchy grass where kids have probably like gotten divots in there. Like, oh my gosh, a kid might trip. And so every so often we'll see it like roped off with seed out there. Mm-hmm. How different is that from your experience?
Our parks, depending on, what city you're in or what part of town you're in, we've got some that still have, like the sheet aluminum slides that'll burn your skin as you're sliding down on a 95-degree day. But then there are some parks that they've gotten some money in, or there are some influential people in the neighborhoods that have gotten some money to get some more modern playground equipment. So it kind of runs the gambit between the ones where like what you said, you'll be pretty safe, versus the ones where you need to get a tetanus booster.
And when you say modern, what does modern look like for you?
Like the plastic, very colorful.
Okay.
As opposed to just like the frame aluminum slides that I remember from my youth, like seesaws, carousels, and stuff like that.
Have I ever told you about the quote modern playground equipment that my family has in their town now? Which, by the way, is our college town, right? Like Macomb.
No, huh?
Maybe I shouldn't have said the town that my parents live in, but screw it. If anybody I'm okay with doxing my parents. Please find my parents; they need help. No, like, so they have these like concrete tunnels. And so they're just like these large concrete structures with like the bumpy, rigid, pointy everything. Like some of them are hollow with like little holes in them so the kids can climb in and climb on top of them and climb out of them. And I think last summer when we went there, like we started playing with it, and I just started like I got into the middle of one of them with Thea, and I was helping her climb out of it on top, and I sat there for a second and went, I'm pretty sure I would get arrested if I was in New Jersey right now. Like the idea that I was letting my 1.5-year-old daughter like stand on top of this probably 5-foot tall structure. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure if I wasn't arrested, they would at least be kicking her off of this thing right now. But that was just like that was like a great new development for them.
Yeah, I think things in parks, like as far as stuff like that go, parks around here, it's a little more Wild West, where you can get away with more stuff like that. You can have a little bit more fun.
Sure. So when you go out with your family, how often do people like tell you what to do?
Very like as far as a stranger.
Yeah, like a stranger. Like so, let me give you an example. So my wife and I will go out to like the local eatery. Like we have a barbecue place in town that we go to every once in a while. There's a diner down the street that we like to go to for breakfast. And so we'll go out to one of these places and we'll be walking with our kid, or we'll be whatever. And like usually when we walk somewhere, we take like a little red wagon, like the flyer, whatever you call them. Which by the way, flyer, which by the way, why are they plastic now? Those things are supposed to be hot metal that burn you the second you sit in there. Now there's like a bench inside with like a seat belt and drink holders. That is not what a wagon is supposed to be.
Right.
But regardless, so we'll go somewhere and we'll get to XYZ a place, and somebody will be like, "Oh gosh, be careful! It's a little bumpy out there." Like, "Oh gosh, you should really make sure she's buckled in." Or, "Oh, is her hair okay like that? Like, are you sure you like just weird, random? Like, we're trying to be thoughtful and considerate, but let us tell you everything you're doing wrong."
Right. Yeah. So far, and of course, most of her life has been through winter, where like short of just going out for a quick bite to eat, we haven't really been around people a ton. So I can't think of any instances where we've had anything like that, and we're lucky that she's pretty chill, and like she can sit down and at this point keep herself occupied. Like she's not crying or screaming while everybody's trying to enjoy their dinner. So like especially with a situation like that, we haven't had any of the mean looks or backhanded comments that are supposed to be whispered but not really. So no, I really can't think of any instances where we've received unsolicited advice.
I mean, she's doing great right here. She's trying to help. She's trying to make sure that you have all your messages typed up. She's clearly grading your papers while we're chatting.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
So speaking of which, so obviously you're a teacher. Your wife's is Amy a teacher? Wait, I'm not sure. Was I supposed to use her name?
Yes.
Okay. Is Amy a teacher or is she administration?
She's looking for admin job still, but she's still in the classroom currently.
Okay. All right. So if anybody has an administrative job in Illinois somewhere, or really anywhere, I'm sure they're willing to relocate outside of Illinois these days, as everybody in that state is.
Right.
So that how does that impact your kind of your relationship with your daughter as far as time constraints, daycare, childcare, all that stuff?
So the big change this year has been we try to get stuff done at school so that we don't have to worry about bringing home. That having been said, it's tough to do that unless you're staying till like 5, 6, 7 o'clock, which neither of us have done. But like half an hour here, after school, half an hour there, going a little bit earlier. Like we've done that, but we try not to bring a lot of stuff home. But it still happens where, like maybe I'll have some tests that need to get graded.
Sure.
Where I'll bring, get some of them done at school, but still bring some home where, Amy will take the lead on Allison while I get those knocked out. And then there's some times where like Amy's doing some prep work for her classes where I'll take the lead. So I think so far we've struck a pretty good balance with, trying not to bring home work, but being flexible to make sure that Allison's taken care of if one or the other of us does bring something home.
Sure. You just said something that I find really interesting. You said stay until like 5, 6, 7 o'clock. Like that is an incredibly late thing. And I mean this sincerely because I think most people out here would hear that and be like, wait, what? That's not even rush hour. So what is a normal time for you guys to get to be with your family?
So for me, my contract time is 3:12. I can be out the door and on my way home at 3:12. So like if I'm out the door right then, depending on traffic, I've got like a 25-minute drive because I teach in the next town over. So it's like a 25-minute drive depending on traffic and of course So I teach at a rural school just south of the next town over, so I have to go through that town to get to this town. So depending on traffic going through that town with their kids getting out of school and everything, I'm usually home by right about 4 o'clock.
Oh wow.
And I've found that if I leave at 3:12, I get home at like 3:55, 4 o'clock. If I stay till 3:30, I get home at like 5 after 4. So if I stay like 20 minutes, half an hour later, it doesn't make that much of a difference. Like everything traffic wise is cleared out that it's pretty much a straight shot.
One of these days people are going to realize that they just avoid rush hour, that they get home the same time, and we're just going to move rush hour back an hour. That's what's really going to happen in the world. So I don't know if you've mentioned this since we've been recording or before when we were chatting, but you mentioned that your daughter is in daycare right now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. So we were able to stretch her through Christmas break without doing daycare. Because my paternity went until I was back at school for 2 weeks before Christmas break. So my parents were here for a week with Allison, and then Amy's parents were here with her for a week.
Okay.
That got us into Christmas break. So then we didn't start daycare until after New Year's.
Sure.
So this is what, the end of April. So essentially for 3.5, 4 months now, she's been in daycare.
Yeah. So out here, daycare costs rent. And out here, rent is really expensive. Like it's $1,500 a month for both. Obviously, I think we are well on the record in my family as not paying for it because, again, my wife runs a daycare, and so woohoo! You don't have to give a number if you don't want to, but is it nearly as painful out there as it is out here?
So I got to do some math in my head because the number that we have is per week.
Okay.
So I guess it would be about on par with an average mortgage payment.
Okay.
But of course, cost of living here is substantially lower, so
Right.
that number is lower too.
All things relative. Um, so then, with are you guys at like a God? I'm gonna use dumb things, but I'm confident you're gonna know about them. Are you guys at like a Montessori type of school, like a big chain type of like fancy
No,
place, or like a lady down the street has some kids come into her house?
neither.
My
So
my
the
my
this
my aunt used to run a place like that, so I'm aware those exist. I know that's a thing.
I the babysitter I went to was a woman that did it out of her house. So yeah, they certainly do
And they
exist.
turned out okay. I mean, we only have a few
Yep.
social problems.
That or again, we're both just assholes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, granted, the only way we can have a conversation is through a microphone. We have to have a screen and 1,000 miles to communicate with each other. But, aside from that, we're perfectly socially adequate.
So her daycare, it used to be the Easter Seals, so it's like part state, like they get state funding, so they're super poor. But there's like they offer services for children with special needs, which was one of the big selling points for us, is that there are kids with autism, there are kids with developmental delays, all sorts of different things along that line, that those kids are just in there. So we us being teachers and seeing that, in a high school setting, we like that she would be privy to that early in her life, and it would just be normalized from the beginning. So that was one of the big selling points for us. And there's like pre-K that they have, preschool, pre-K, and then there's a bus that picks up kids at the daycare and takes them to school and brings them back in the afternoon. So when she gets to that age in a few years, that's going to be one less logistical thing that we have to worry about.
Wait, this is a daycare and there's a bus that takes the kids to it?
Yep.
How old are the kids at this daycare?
As young as 6 weeks, and as old as there are some high school age kids that still go there for services.
How young do the kids take the bus?
School age.
Okay, so like
this is just like we would drop her off there, and then the bus would come pick her up to take her to school.
Okay.
Like kindergarten, first grade, etc. And then bring her back to the daycare in the afternoon.
Okay.
But they do also have like a preschool thing in house that they.
And are any of the parents judged for sending their kids on the bus? You wouldn't know because your kid's 9 months old.
Yeah,
I
doubt it. I doubt it because it's just what they do. But I don't know, maybe.
So you mentioned that you're usually able to be home by 4. So what time does that mean you usually pick her up from daycare?
So the daycare is actually just 2 blocks from our house, so it's just on the way home I grab her. So I'm there at say 3:55 and the door home at 4:00.
Are you usually one of the first people to pick up kids?
So on that, I picked her up today, but normally I drop her off in the morning and Amy picks her up in the evening.
Okay.
So she would be better on that than I would. But I know that in her room, so they've got it, split up by age, where like the babies are in one room, and then once they start getting mobile, they bump them up to the next room.
Okay.
But in her room, there's 6 kids in there currently. One of them, his mom is a pre-K teacher, so she's essentially on the schedule that we are.
Okay.
So I would imagine that there are days where she gets in there to pick him up before we're in.
Okay. How late does the preschool usually open?
They open at I think 6:15 in the morning. It's usually like 6:30, 6:45 when.
Oh wow, that's early. And how late?
5:30.
Oh my god. Yeah. That wouldn't work for anybody here. 5:30 is like, that's when people are leaving the city for their 2-hour commute. Yeah.
Traffic, yeah.
I think Nick got in trouble with his old preschool because I think they closed at like 7 o'clock and he had a really hard time getting there in time. It was like 6:30, 7 o'clock or something. And like they would routinely like charge him like $10 a minute or something, like something obscene. Because it was like
ours is, I think it's, I guess it amounts to $1 a minute. I think it's $15 for 15 minutes.
Oh my god!
And then they call the cops after, I think, half an hour.
That's crazy.
45 minutes.
I remember when I was in grade school, like my dad didn't pick me up from basketball practice for 2 hours, and I walked home, and that was just like whatever.
Yeah,
like nobody even like questioned why this like 7-year-old or whatever was walking home at however late at night.
Yeah, that would not be allowed to happen today. Like the coach essentially would be held liable in that situation.
Like I know out here it just wouldn't happen because there would be 1,000 parents who are like hounding you about whether or not you have a ride and like following you if you like we're just gonna wait for you for your parents to get here.
And from the coach's standpoint, I imagine that there's just kind of an understood threat of death if anything befalls anybody's kid.
There has to be, right? I can only imagine. Like I've always thought, like I would love to like coach a thing and like do the yeah, I'm gonna be here and be the team person. And now I just think like, God, that's a lawsuit. Like you're gonna get sued.
Right.
Like especially
that's
here.
Like the sport part of it, the baseball, the volleyball, whatever sport it is, like that part would be awesome. But just the behind the scene politics. With my, I haven't coached any sports at my school, but knowing, all of my coworkers that coach and knowing a few people at the school my wife teaches at that coach, like at this point in my life, there is no way in hell that you could give me enough money to make me want to do that.
Right. No, I'm just like, even if you ignore the legal aspects of it, I just think about, like just the pure hassle of it all. Like, I don't know, like, you guys probably haven't gotten here yet if you just started daycare, like, through, after spring, Christmas break.
Christmas.
Like, when it comes to holiday parties and crap, like, there is that effing list of, like, here are the things we need, who's gonna bring what.
Right.
And it's, like, a battle over who's gonna get the easy store-bought thing, and who's gonna have to sign up for the crap that you have to make at home. And without fail, we always get stuck with the make-at-home thing because my wife is in charge of the list, and God forbid she think about herself first.
Yeah, that's how your wife is. She's not egocentric at all.
No, she'll like sign up Nick and Sarah the first day for like, I don't know, like drinks. Like, here, go buy a 2-liter of soda and you're fine. And then she'll come home the night before and like, well, we had pancakes, but now we have to switch to deviled eggs because so-and-so wanted something. And so she like stayed up until midnight boiling eggs and then woke up early to, I don't even know how you make deviled eggs aside from like you take the yolks and you devil them.
Yeah, something.
Whatever that crap means. So she was up at like 4 a.m. deviling eggs and like filling them with crap and disgustingness. And nobody's eating those things.
Right.
There's like the one weird person who eats one of them and goes like, oh, these are just wonderful. You did such a great job. Like, you don't like this. It's just a freaking disgusting egg.
Especially like the kids. If they're going to the kids, they're not eating deviled eggs.
No kid is eating a deviled egg. They're finding the candy, the chicken strips, the French fries, or because we're out here on the East Coast, the broccoli, the hummus, the curried chicken, the tikka masala. Man.
Yeah, not speaking my language at all now.
Oh my God, kids eat fancy out here. Like, not my kid. My kid eats like cheese sticks. If it's not like a cheese with some kind of a plastic or wax coating over it that she has to peel off, it's not going in her mouth. But other kids are like, oh, well, I just had a nice tikka masala. I brought some naan with it for the. I'm going to bring some kale and quinoa. Like, what the? Be a kid. Be a normal human child for a minute. And then teach me how you got your kids to do that, because I wanted Thea to be that person. But I screwed up, and now all she eats is candy and cheese.
I was gonna say, are you in that like only macaroni and fish sticks and stuff like that? Like they're like 2 or 3 staples. You don't touch anything else.
We've actually come back out the other side of the mac and cheese craze, And now we are on to unfortunately we are on to candy because everybody gives this kid candy.
Right.
And that's the problem with being the teacher, like the boss's daughter, is that everybody gives her special treatment. So like they'll go out to lunch or whatever and bring Thea back a cookie, or like because she has to stay late with the owners, the owner will be like, okay, well I'm gonna make him some dinner, so here's a grape and a giant cake I bought at the store. And so this kid knows that she just waits long enough. Eventually, somebody's going to give her a pastry to eat.
Something sweet and fattening is going to come her way.
Yeah, exactly. Which is crazy because she is the skinniest kid in the world. Like she's a twig. So surely she's going to be diabetic or something. I don't know. There's going to be some sort of a food issue. I can tell.
Or at some point her metabolism is just going to stop and she'll.
Yeah, and then she'll turn into me. She will look like her mother for the first 25 years of her life. She'll hit 26, she'll eat a cupcake or something, and boom, now she's dead. I knew that daddy was in there somewhere. I see those eyes. You got dad's eyes, so I know there's other genes in there too. It's just a ticking time bomb. Eventually that sweet tooth is going to catch up to her. God, I don't even know how long we've been going, but it feels like we're probably well into it. So I don't know. Is there anything you want to specifically mention? What is your experience of Midwestern parenting? I know you don't know East Coast, but you know Chicago, and so compared to what you've known from friends and family who live in Chicago, how do you feel like the difference is from where you live and where they live?
So we've actually got a couple friends that are in Chicago. We've got one of Amy's best friends. Their son is, what is he, like 3 days younger than Allison? So they're all intents and purposes they're exactly the same age.
Oh, wow.
But they live in Chicago, and he started daycare. I don't think it's 6 weeks, but he was a lot younger than Allison when he started. And I know we've been lucky so far that Allison's just had a couple colds that she's been fighting through, but their son he had an ear infection and I think he had something respiratory too at one point. Mm-hmm. So just a lot of that stuff, and like they had to. They had a little car that might be able to fit 2 average-sized adults, so they had to upgrade on that. Whereas, with us here, like you don't have the mass transit, you can't just walk a couple blocks to the L station and go across town that way. Like we have to have cars here.
Sure.
So we both had our own cars. To start with, so we didn't have to worry about big purchases like that. It was just the baby stuff like the high chairs and car seats and all that normal stuff that you have to get anyway. So like to me that was the big difference. For us, small town versus big town, was that we didn't have to like completely change our infrastructure, like as far as the car goes and stuff like that.
That's great. Yeah, man, you guys have 2 cars. God, that's such a luxury. I can only imagine.
Not just that, but we have a 2-car garage to put them in.
That's not possible. We don't even have a garage to put one in. We have a street, and we have a yard in our backyard where like we share it with our downstairs neighbor, and it's just not. Like, no matter what you do, you have to squeeze out and just know that eventually you're going to scrape your car.
Right.
Like, somebody's going to get hit. There's a tree. There's a building. Like, the width between, like, our house and the neighbor's house is approximately 1 car and, like, a dog. And so if you were coming out and you misjudge it by, like, half a dog, you're scraping your window. Not your window, your mirror. It's like, well, sorry. Deal with it.
And then, of course, you do that, you panic and overcorrect and end up getting the other mirror.
Oh, yeah, no, then you just hit the other house. It's just like, okay, sorry about that hole in your house. You're showering? Nope. Okay, not worth it. Yeah, no, it's terrible out here. We need to move. We need to not be here.
Yes, absolutely.
But it turns out there's no jobs anywhere else right now.
Yeah.
Cool. So... I don't know. Like, I would love to talk more about this and talk more about this as our kids get older. But for now, I feel like we should probably start moving on. And
Okay.
usually this is the point where we talk about emails and we do that and blah blah blah. And it turns out you're usually the person who writes emails. So instead of you
I
having to
know I've been
type
kind
this thing
of
up,
about that. Lately. I'm generally about a week behind at this point. I don't know what the deal is, where I got behind, why I'm perpetually behind, but that's the reason why I've been slacking on the emails lately.
that's okay. I completely understandable. This is your opportunity to be up to date. Do you have any questions that you would like a completely ignorant parent to answer for you?
Man, I'm not. Nothing's come to mind that I think I need to ask right now.
All right. In that case, I'm going to have to come up with a stupid question for us, okay?
Okay.
All right. So, would you rather be stuck in a cornfield as a farmer or have to live downtown Chicago next to Wrigley Field? So keep in mind, this means you have to not only live in a cornfield, like you have to live in a rural area, not like a small town rural area, like in a cornfield on a farm doing like plowing and hoeing and tractoring, because I think that's a verb.
It is now.
Or you have to live in Wrigleyville. And we're going to move back in time to a time when those buildings across the street were actually apartment buildings and not like government funded stealing the baseball game buildings.
Right. So let me ask this question: the cornfield option. Are we talking living off the land, or is there like a town nearby that I can go to buy a gallon of milk?
I feel like this is a modern a modern farm, where like you're not living off the land to feed yourself, but you do have to like do all the modern farming crap where like you have to buy a bunch of new tractors every year and like the new government subsidized Monsanto bean and whatever, and then after all that, like maybe really hard labor, maybe just like push a button, let all the tractors do it themselves, then maybe you can drive like an hour away into town to buy a carton of milk.
Okay. I think the living on the farm would be the much more viable option. I think it would be awesome for a month during baseball season to live right next to Wrigley Field,
Really?
just be able to walk up to the box office and grab a ticket. But
oh man, that seems like it would be the worst time.
I could not do that long term.
Ugh. I understand. Okay, see, I would be like, I would love to live in Wrigleyville during the winter when I don't have to worry about drunk, jerks, stumbling down the road and
Yeah.
like puking on my steps and like having a baseball hit my window at like 11 o'clock at night while I'm trying to sleep. It turns out with a kid, I am such an early to bed person. Like if I'm not in bed by 10:30, I am just miserable the next day.
Yeah, I get that. The other night, today's Thursday. Tuesday night, I don't know what the deal is because I'm usually like as soon as my head hits the pillow, I'm out. But Tuesday night, my brain was just going that I could not get to sleep for anything.
Mm-hmm.
My Fitbit said I got literally an hour and 20 minutes of sleep that night. So yesterday I was a zombie. I don't know how I made it through the school day, but yeah, I completely get that. That if you're at a quote unquote decent hour, that the next day is rough.
I didn't even ask you about that. How are you guys still in the midst of like parenting sleep hell, or are you guys getting through it?
No. So by the time Amy was done with her maternity leave, we had her on a pretty decent schedule. She wasn't sleeping through the night at that point, but we were getting good, like on a bad night 4-hour stretches, on a good night more like 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, we tend to put her to bed between 6 and 7. And some mornings she'll wake up at 5. Others we wake her up at 6 to get her ready to go to daycare. So she's getting, a full 10, 11, sometimes 12 hours of sleep a night.
Okay. That's great.
We are insanely lucky on that front.
Yes. Thea still doesn't get 10 hours of sleep a night. She, like, between just waking up because it's like a half a degree off of the perfect temperature for her. It has to be 73 degrees. If it's 72 or 74, she'll wake up.
See, and we're Allison's just the opposite on that. Like through the winter, we keep our heat on like 67, 68 degrees. So that's her norm. But Monday night, I guess it was nicer here, so we kept the windows open, and it was probably a good 3 or 4 degrees cooler in her room that night, and same as normal, she just slept right through.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
I'm sure it'll swing the other way, and she'll have a stretch where she's not sleeping as well, but for right now and for pretty much the entirety of her life so far, she's been a pretty good sleeper.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I am jealous. Maybe someday my kids will sleep. Kids, like they're plural. Nick and Thea. So I'm talking about Nick as well. He doesn't sleep very well.
It counts.
That's going to bring us to the part of the show that we call recommendations. The thing where we recommend a thing to people where we like, hey, you should do a thing, and then we expect you to actually do it. And I like to believe people do. I guess you have that answer, and I don't want to know it. Do not tell me if you actually do this. I would like to believe that I have sway over other people's lives.
I will let you continue thinking that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's all I want in my life. So I don't know if you planned anything for this. So I'm going to go first so you can think and like do the thing where you scan the room like shit. Oh, books. I'm recommending The Power of Positive Thinking. What? Whatever. That's what I'm going to recommend a book though. I'm recommending Charged by Emily Bazelon. It is a really interesting book. So I'm first of all, as you can imagine, as a person who runs a podcast, I'm a podcast junkie. And Emily Bazelon is one of the hosts of the Slate Political Gabfest. And she has written a new book about the gun courts in New York City. And it's really a very interesting story about both how the gun court works as far as a system of law enforcement and judicial whatever, but also how the actual enforcement of the gun laws lead to that system just being utterly broken. I'm about halfway through the book right now, and it's fascinating and terrifying and just really depressingly sad too. But I think it's a really good read. It's a worthwhile read. And of course, if you're not a reader, there's also a podcast version. They're on episode 2. You can find the podcast in other places, but please download it after you download ours. Tom, do you have a recommendation?
So my recommendation is, as I kind of said as we were going through all the questions, this spring, as the weather's getting nicer, is really the first chance we've had to be out and about with Allison. So last week, and we've done it 2 or 3 more times since then, we've gone to walked to our daughter's daycare to pick her up and bring her home. Mm-hmm. So branching off of that, my suggestion is, now that the weather's getting nicer, just go outside and sit and play with your kid, like in your front yard or on your front porch, whatever space you've got. Get out there, get some fresh air, and enjoy the sunshine.
I like it. That's great. I'm definitely trying to do that myself. Get outside before our backyard turns into a giant mosquito nest again. Oh yeah, the second it gets above like 75 degrees, our entire backyard becomes like a sauna, a wet, humid sauna that just fills with like the demon mosquitoes. I don't remember what those I don't remember what they're called. Like they're the Asian ones that carry malaria and the anti-baby virus or whatever. I'm sure when Amy was pregnant, you guys knew all about here's the 13 diseases that can kill your baby right now while she's pregnant. Please don't get bit by a mosquito.
Well, funny story on that. So we got married 2 years ago this summer, and we were talking about honeymoon, and we're like, at this point, relations with Cuba were a little more open than what they are more recently. Sure. So we were kind of looking into seeing if that would be a possibility. And then Zika hit, and we're like, well, we might have a kid sometime in the near future. Mm-hmm. So no, we're not doing that.
Oh yeah, that was the thing that's the one, Zika, and they're God, what was it? No, is it Zika that was the baby making one, or is that a different one? Yeah,
it was Zika. It was like you're if you got bit by a mosquito with Zika, what was it, encephalopathy?
Oh, encephalopod. Yeah, your baby will turn into an encephalopod, and it will bring about Jurassic Park. This is a thing. Yeah, I've read about it. Yeah. it was in the Journal of Unreal Medicine. That was a thing, and I think when we were getting pregnant, like all of a sudden New York, New Jersey, like, oh yeah, there's been a documented Zika case, and we're like, son of a bitch. That's the way this works. We move to the East Coast, and it's just going to like destroy everything.
Well, same thing with the measles now. Like there was an outbreak of that in Chicago because somebody, I can't remember if it was Midway or O'Hare, but somebody that was infected passed through whichever airport it was, and it was like if you were passing through I think it was O'Hare. If you're passing through O'Hare within like a 3-hour window, you may be carrying it.
Yeah. We had the same thing in Brooklyn.
Right, and it's scary how few people have to not get vaccinated for herd immunity to just collapse.
Right? Yeah, it's ridiculous and upsetting. And screw this. My new recommendation is getting vaccinated. Everybody get the goddamn shot. There's more mercury in your goddamn thermostat than there is in those shots.
There's probably more formaldehyde in there too.
Yeah. Take out your thermostat. If you don't want to get your kids vaccinated, take out your thermostat. I dare you.
Is that the new recommendation now? Take out
your thermostat. Yes, take out your thermostat. That is my new recommendation. Take out your thermostat. Take out your, I don't know, and get a damn shot.
Get vaccinated, yes.
That's going to do it for us this week. As always, you can find me at Chris Moss again. You can find Nick at N. Westemeyer. You can find us at twodumbdads.com. And there's other places that I'm forgetting right now. I think one of them is probably Twitch. Yeah, I usually mention Twitch, even though I don't usually do anything on there. I think it's at Rampant55 on Twitch. During the summers, I'm much better about streaming stuff, and I keep mentioning it because there's like an underlying discussion about trying to do video versions of the podcast, and so we'll just start streaming it on Twitch. And so I'm like, everybody needs to know this, but I never fucking go there. But yeah, at Rampant55 on Twitch. The number 2_dumb_dads on Twitter. That's the one. So if you haven't already checked it out, we also have a special bonus episode from last week. As a follow-up from our last regular episode on the college admissions scandal, we interviewed a college counselor by the name of Shalise Belmont, and I think it's a really nice interview, and we have the full version of the interview on our website, twodumbdads.com, and so please check it out. But I guess until next time, be well.